What is up, everybody? It is a wonderful Monday morning in Southern California. On today's Chris Rennie Show, hosted by your favorite host, Chris Rennie, we are going to get into the most common theme in the NFL, a record that affects my team and many other teams around the league. I'm going to get into that first, and how every game for those teams is a must-win at this point. We'll discuss the Goff Wentz argument and how Goff has taken a lead to me and how I've been right this whole time. Who wins the NFC East? The Giants looked impressive. Best 2-7 team of all time, according to some people. And I get into the Masters as well as some of the biggest college football news in a while on this show. That's why I'm bringing it up on the Chris Rennie Show as well. So we're going to talk about it all today, but before we get started, if you're a new listener, go subscribe to the podcast and rate the show. It's easy. Just tap the two buttons. It'll always pop up when I come in. And join me whenever you feel like it. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Chris Rennie CFB. And we talk about all sports there. So feel welcome to engage. And besides that, just enjoy the show. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. So yesterday, what I learned about the NFL is it's very competitive this year. There's a lot of parity, a lot more parity than maybe there was at the beginning of the year. I think people understand that their team more than ever is probably not going to win the Super Bowl. But until you play the games, you really don't know. And I'm looking at the records, the NFL standings right here, and it's much closer in a lot of divisions than you'd think, all right? The AFC East, one game between the Bills and the Dolphins. Actually, it's a half game. The AFC West, 2 games between the Chiefs and the Raiders. The unbeatable Chiefs are only 2 games ahead in the division right now. The Steelers have actually taken a commanding lead. They're up 3 games now on the Ravens and the Browns, but still, striking distance. There's plenty of time left, 7 games to where something can change. All right, it wouldn't be in the realm of crazy. And then the Colts and Titans are tied for the division lead right now at 6-3. Colts with the current tiebreaker. In the NFC, it's the same boat. You've got the Eagles 3-5-1. That is not a commanding lead by any means. The Giants 3-7, like whatever that math works out to be. I think it's a game and a half back. The Washington football team. I messed up. And the Cowboys are all still very much in play for this division. Honestly, it all depends on which team's going to get hot. I'm leaning the Giants right now. We will see, though. The NFC West, 3 teams at 6-3. You know, it felt like for a little bit the Seahawks were running away with this thing, but they fell apart. They've struggled the last 2 weeks, and now they're in it, in the mix, in the thick of things with the Rams and the Cardinals. And then the NFC North, this one's 2 games. Pretty commanding, I'd say, for the Packers. They're significantly better than the other teams in the North. But, I mean, when your division's within 4 games in the win column, it's still up for grabs. And then the NFC South, the Saints at 7-2 with a half-game lead over the Buccaneers. Interesting, for sure. But what we're going to talk about today is this 6-3 overload. Why? I mean, there's so much parity in the NFL. You look at, you count the total 6-3 teams. You got 1, 2, 3 NFC West. All right, and you go over to the AFC. You've got the Dolphins. You've got the Raiders. You've got the Ravens, the Browns, and then you've got the Colts and the Titans. That is a lot of teams at 6-3. What does that mean for the league? It means there's going to be a lot of fan bases pretty sour that even the extended playoff couldn't get them in. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I think when you look at the league, this is exactly what the NFL would like. It wants games to matter as long as games can matter, and games are going to matter until the very end. But why am I upset about this, and why am I hurting a little bit on this Sunday after the Browns get to their best record and after 9 games in like 25, 30 years? It's because we're just like everybody else. I know. I shouldn't be complaining as a Browns fan. But I will say this. It's going to make football exciting because every single game from here on out is a must-win game. So that little crappy game that the Browns played against the Texans that I fell asleep during because it was so boring, that game's important. That every game the Raiders plays from here on out to win the wild card or possibly take control of the AFC West is important. And they beat the Chiefs already. I'm not saying they're out of the realm of possibility. But will Mahomes lose to the Raiders a second time? That's a question I don't think is going to be answered. I think he's going to win. Then you get into the Dolphins. The Dolphins are playing the best football of their season so far. The most consistent football. People were all up in arms. Hey, why are you benching Ryan Fitzpatrick? He's got us kind of close to the playoffs. We haven't even seen Tua. And then, out of nowhere, Tua's electric. Everyone sort of said the whole time. He's 6-3. You got the best defense in the league. Points per game wise. Best defense, no one over 30. Got a lot of team control for a long period of time. Unbelievable. All right, in the NFC West, that's what this division's been the whole year. It's been close. It's been tight. And all the games have been competitive. Even with the 49ers playing, they've been competitive. So it's been ridiculous. The Cardinals get to first place off that ridiculous throw to DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray's a gifted quarterback. I think we're going to talk more about him come the end of the season when I do my quarterback whip around. It's grade all of them on their season because that's something I like to do. We do team grades here. But I think what that throw showed me is, if you have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins and you're not getting anything in return back, so a guy who hasn't really played football in 2 years, all right, that's good. That's smart. And a couple draft picks for a guy who's all-pro, elite, still pretty young in the eyes of the NFL. I mean, are you serious? I mean, I'd be upset if I was a Seahawks fan. I'd be upset if I was a Rams fan. How did Bill O'Brien win the NFC West? I mean, you got to put that on his coaching resume. NFC West champ. General manager. Because that was the worst move I've ever seen. What other takeaways I got from this weekend? Let's go through. I mean, the Patriots beat the Ravens. I talked to my friend about this, big-time Ravens fan. It's getting to the point with Greg Roman and Lamar Jackson where you're going to have to start really taking a look in the mirror. One of the two does. I'm honestly leaning Greg Roman. He's got to stop babying the offense. He's got to stop making calls that are comfortable. They have to start challenging downfield. They have to start getting into a zone of passing that they just haven't been comfortable with since Lamar's taken over. Yes, I know that game happened in a torrential downpour. I know you're probably going to have to hammer the ball. But when you did, why is it Lamar Jackson with 11 carries? Why did Gus Edwards only get 7? Why did J.K. Dobbins only get 5? In a completely rainy game, Mark Ingram coming back off injury, 5 carries, 5 yards. I don't understand it. but I'm happy about it. Browns getting closer to second place. The Patriots looked really good yesterday. That's for sure true. I think that if they were able to do that, look at Cam Newton, 13 for 17, very limited throwing. But, you hammered the ball with Damian Harris, 22 carries, 121 yards. You hammered the ball with Rex Burkhead. Even Cam Newton hammered the ball a little bit. All right, so when you're looking at those stats, it's pretty good. The only issue I really have with the Patriots is looking at their receivers. All right, you guys might laugh at this. You guys might think it's a bit, but it's not. These are the real receivers for the New England Patriots that caught passes yesterday. Jacoby Myers, Rex Burkhead, Jacob Johnson, I'm assuming a fullback, Ryan Izzo, I want to say a tight end, and then James White. I get it was raining. But let's not act like Bill Belichick's a miracle worker here. Let's not act like that. So I know Bill Belichick's gotten a lot of heat and I know Tom Brady has a better record. I get it. The difference is Bill Belichick is the real captain of the ship. He was going to have to go down with it regardless. Tom Brady was able to hop on a fun roller coaster ride and just sort of sit on it. Direct it. He's the guy who's like, hey, you want to take an extra ride at the amusement park? That's Tom Brady. Bill Belichick owns the failing amusement park because of the pandemic. I'm not saying the pandemic's why the Patriots are bad. It's a lot of years of managing the team to the strengths of a certain player. But when you think about it, it's very similar. Your star attraction leaves. The team's built around him. The park's built around the Matterhorn. The Matterhorn shut down. No one wants to go on It's a Small World that many times. The Haunted Mansion's outdated. It's played. Tom Brady went to Disney World. It's all cool. It's new. It's got Star Wars and stuff there now. You got all these young talented weapons. Laser blasters, or virtual reality games. It's not the old Disneyland park. It's not. It's new. It's fun. You got 6 parks in there, man. You got Mike Evans. You got your boy Rob Gronkowski. You got all these people, and it's in Florida. The weather's great this time of year right here, except for the tropical storm. Apologies if you're living in Florida. Hope you went through that one and the one before it very, very safely. But the more I look at it, the more games Bill Belichick wins this year, the more he proves it wasn't Tom Brady. Because I'm going to let you know, I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. Tom Brady wasn't winning many games with this team. There's no way. There is a 0% chance that Tom Brady was going to win a lot of games with this football team. Tom Brady struggled a lot last year. With Edelman on the IR, what are they going to do? He can't throw those 10-yard over routes. I remember last week hearing, oh my God, Tom Brady, he's thrown it downfield 45 more times than usual. I'm like, has he been accurate? I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. Cam Newton hasn't been. Bill Belichick still chalking up dubs against the Ravens. I think that's the best team either of the two have beat this year. Tom Brady's going to be fine. I'm not saying he's not, but they're not going to win a Super Bowl. There's zero part of me that thinks the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have it in them this year to win the Super Bowl. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I do see quite a few other teams in the NFC with the potential to win the Super Bowl. That is where I stand tall. I don't think Tom Brady's going to win one. So what does that really mean for Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? Number one, neither of them were going to win a Super Bowl this year with the roster that was already constructed in New England. So let's just chalk that one up as an L. Tom Brady drew a lot of excitement and a lot of crowd affair when he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and then when they kept adding weapons. All right, so You take that into consideration. Are they going to win a Super Bowl? No. You know why? It's number 12. Nobody else. It's Tom Brady. He's going to be the reason they can't win the Super Bowl because he's limited. And against an elite pass rush, he always has been. Look at the Giants, the teams that have beat him in the Super Bowl. They were elite at getting after the quarterback. But don't ask me, ask Bill Belichick. Why was he so excited he had Cam Newton? There was more stuff we could finally do as offense. Why was Josh McDaniel so excited to have a quarterback who could run around a little bit? That's why. Because they were so used to having this board in the back of the pocket. But what you learn from this is that it's not always greener on the other side. There's not always greener pastures. Sometimes it is what it is, and you have enjoyed your career. And that's honestly what I should say to both of them. But if I had to bet in 5 years which one is more likely to have another Super Bowl as a key cog to the team, I'm going to say it's Bill Belichick. Still, I think he's a better coach. I think he's going to be able to get an elite quarterback this year. I think there's going to be a lot of great things that Bill Belichick's able to do that Tom Brady's just not going to have control over. And I'm going to tell you, the Bills are going to be a better team the next 2 or 3 years. Or the Buccaneers. That's what and the Bills, honestly. But one thing that you have to remember moving forward, that the NFL is an all results-driven league. So if you don't win the Super Bowl, it wasn't a success, all right? Especially when you have a guy like Tom Brady who left with one mission on hand: to win a Super Bowl. So it's zero sum if you don't win at all. And it's all negative if you come up short from that. So if both of them all come up short from it, it's a positive for the rest of the league because the Patriots dynasty is dead. It's beautiful. Either way you look at it, it's a win for me. Ba-boom. But yeah, write down that Buccaneers stuff for Old Takes Exposed. I'm ready to get roasted. It's all good. I don't believe it, but obviously. Man, God, Russ looked bad, though. This was Russell Wilson's worst game, and Jared Goff, one of Jared Goff's best. All right, we're going to pull up the stats. We're going to talk about it. Let's go Rams versus Seahawks. Let's see what we're getting after today. I watched a little bit of this game. Once again, I just took some naps yesterday. It was a good day. I went golfing Saturday. You know, the Masters kind of motivated me. I had a friend in town. Went and hit the Meadowlark Golf Course, Huntington Beach, California. Great little game. Cut off 15 strokes from my last game. That's just 2 rounds. There's a few trips to the range. So my advice, just get out there. Play a little bit. You're never going to be able to score a course until you actually play on it. Don't be nervous. A lot of people are bad. Trust me. Yes, Russell Wilson. Great. But this is actually going to segue into a bigger conversation topic. A conversation topic I've had with a lot of people who've just always been on the other side. All right, and I'm here to say that I'm finally right, okay? So, Russell Wilson yesterday had his team in the game in the end. He was still playing a really solid football game. But the problem that arose was his mistakes, his interceptions. So when you look at his interceptions, they were pretty bad interceptions. They were down on the other side of the field. One was in the end zone. You know, he struggled yesterday. He struggled a little bit for sure. So now you're going to talk about the Seahawks and Russell Wilson. Everyone's like, oh my God, he lost his MVP. All right, so Russell Wilson was playing football at the most elite level I've ever seen a quarterback play. He was down to have a bad game. I think when you look at him, oh my God, he throws a pretty spiral. But when you look at him, he really is sensational at the magic making. You know, when he's pressured, he gets out of the pocket. He's better than any quarterback I've ever seen. I'm even going to say he's more accurate than Mahomes when he gets out of the pocket. He can't throw it as far. He can't throw it as hard. But some of the plays I've seen Russell Wilson make this year with guys wrapped around his legs, it's unbelievable. I just don't understand how it's physically possible. And when you look at the rushing stats, it's a little tough. They don't really have a true go-to running back still to this day. Alex Collins is a little bit better. He found his way back to Seattle. But I just don't see that. That's a challenge. That's something the Seahawks are very bad at. And when you think about it moving forward, you have to be a balanced football team to win in the NFL. They don't have a run game. Russell Wilson was the leading rusher yesterday, all right? And the Rams took advantage of that for sure. They said, hey, Russell, you're going to beat us. You're going to beat us throwing the football. We're not going to let you run. We're not going to let them run. All right, you're going to beat us with the football. And you know what? The Rams and McVay, you got to give them a ton of credit here. They have long drives. They took a lot of time off the clock. They forced the Seahawks into mistakes. They hammered the ball with their 18 running backs. And Jared Goff, very solid performance. 27-37, 302. No touchdowns. But they scored 3 touchdowns on the day. So they had 3 touchdown drives. That is big time. All right. Josh Reynolds had a day. Tyler Higbee had a day. Cooper Kupp had a day. Robert Woods had a day. All the receivers were active. All the receivers were making catches, And, you watch the highlights of the game. Jared Goff was delivering on very crucial throws once again. But the biggest difference between the two teams and why there was a 1 touchdown gap was because Russell Wilson ended 2 drives on their side of the 50 going into score. And it led to the Rams having more possessions on offense, sudden change, and their ability to finish drives because of Jared Goff's mistake-free football. Now, Jared Goff's not a perfect quarterback. He has a lot of places where he challenges. Honestly, Jared Goff reminds me of so many quarterbacks. He really is similar to Matt Ryan in a lot of ways where when you have the weapons around him, when you have good play calling, when you have a situation that's positive and you have pass protection, Jared Goff is going to sit back, pinpoint everybody, and be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, all right? And that is where I'm going to lead into the next segment. But before we get into that, I just need to say, the team to beat in the NFC West hasn't changed. It is still the Seahawks. They still have the best quarterback. I know Kyler Murray won on that freak throw. So I've just seen too many close games with the Cardinals. I've seen too many close games with the Rams. I think it's the Seahawks division to win still. Now, the Seahawks are up to 3rd. They've struggled a little bit in interdivisional matchups, but But I still think the team to beat is the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC West. And that takes me into the next segment on the show. So, 2 quarterbacks got drafted. It's the story as old as time. When you look at the draft class that was Jared Goff and the draft class that was Carson Wentz. So, in 2016, Jared Goff went number 1 overall. The California kid from Nevada, Cal Berkeley, went down to Southern California to be featured on the Rams. It's awesome. It is great. I'm pretty sure it happened when the Rams were deciding to move back, so they had a new quarterback and everything. But I'll say this. The first time I watched Jared Goff was his freshman year in college. He was a redshirt freshman, maybe the skinniest dude I've ever seen play quarterback. They went 1-11, but they put up a lot of points on Ohio State's defense that year. I want to say 28 points, and he was impressive. And as his career moved forward, 2013, 1-11. All right, 2013, 1-11. 2014, 5-7. 2015, his final year there, Goff led the Bears to 7-5. What would have happened if he stayed? I don't know. We're not talking national championship with Cal, but his career stats improved. His final year, he threw for 4,700 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. All right, with Carson Wentz, everything was bread. He went to North Dakota State. He was very much underappreciated coming out of high school, being the fact that he went to Bismarck, North Dakota, Century High School, and he was drafted second. All right, he's a Super Bowl champ. He wasn't the quarterback that won the game, though. And ever since then, it's been a steady battle of, is Wentz a good quarterback? Is Wentz a bad quarterback? So the problem with going to a school like North Dakota State is they have a system, and they like to run it. And then Wentz ended up not playing until his true junior year. So he was a redshirt sophomore, and Wentz became the starting quarterback his junior year, 2014. In his first start in the opener, he went 18 for 28. And, this is one lesson I want to teach people when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. When the quarterback comes from a lower division or a lower level, you have to mark him down a little bit. Because, yes, he can make some electric throws, but then it's easy most of the time. Easier. Okay, I don't want to say playing quarterback in the FCS is easy. I obviously didn't do it, so I'm not stepping on anybody's toes here. But when you watch and you compare the teams that Carson Wentz had to go against, he was the team that everyone looked at like, oh my God, we're probably not going to beat these guys on the schedule. Just, check them off. That's what the players are doing in the locker room, looking at their calendar. We're going to give NDSU a shot, but they're the best team in college football. That's how most people look at them. And then Jared Goff was playing on a team that was terrible. They had to build. They had to create something. So I think Jared Goff for an NFL franchise is much better. I'm not knocking Wentz. I've always thought that Jared Goff was a much better option for the NFL. Number one, Carson Wentz had an injury history in college that Jared Goff did not have. So moving into it, I think they both came out like gangbusters. Carson Wentz led him to the playoffs. Jared Goff led his Rams team to a Super Bowl, lost to the Patriots. Carson Wentz led his team to the playoffs. It is pretty even. I'd chalk it up at the beginning. But over the last 2 years, you've really seen a gap starting to widen. And Jared Goff had his struggles last year, but the thing is, Jared Goff was never up and down. You knew what you were going to get from Jared Goff last year, So when you look at the stats from last season, they weren't his best stats. He had 626 attempts, which is never something you want from Jared Goff. He had 4,600 yards, 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. A far stretch from his best year in 2018 at 4,600 yards. But the one thing that stuck with Jared Goff was the issue of his rookie year with Jeff Fisher. And Jeff Fisher was a dinosaur. So when we're talking about Jared Goff, it's kind of unfair to use that 2016 against him when Carson Wentz came out like gangbusters, lit it up. All right, I love the word gangbusters. I use it a lot. Get at me, whatever you want. So now I'm looking and I'm comparing. And it's not even close to who's the better quarterback at this point. Yes, Carson Wentz had a 4,000-yard year last year, but the Eagles sucked. His best 2 years, he didn't play all 16. So the best ability is availability. And then I'm going to take you to a final stat before I get to the next show topic. When you evaluate quarterbacks, or when I evaluate quarterbacks, a big stat to me is how many winning plays does he make. That's the throwing the ball out, delivering on that wheel route in the fourth quarter. Those types of plays. Carson Wentz makes a lot of big-time winning plays. I will not deny that. He is an unbelievable player in the last 5 minutes of a game when he just gets to go out and sling the football around. But you make winning plays in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter too. And then there's the other side of it. The plays that are not losing plays. And that's the time you force into double coverage. You throw a pick. You could have taken the check down, got an easy first down, but instead you throw it downfield, it gets knocked down, and you end up punting. Those are those types of plays, where you just need to understand the offense. And that is where Jared Goff excels. Jared Goff can make every single throw. I've seen him do it. I've seen Jared Goff make some throws that I didn't even think were fathomable from the angle he had to get the ball in there at. It's just crazy what he is able to do sometimes. Carson Wentz, I have seen him miss streaking receiver across the middle quite a few times. Doesn't deliver in the easy moments, which makes it really hard on him in the hard moment. But he weirdly is better in the hard moments, and it's perplexing. I just don't see it. I just don't get it. So that was a dime to Burkhead. So I think Goff is better at this point. I think you see the records, you see the way the teams are playing, you see how the Eagles are winning and how the Rams are winning. The Rams are able to play a team-oriented brand of football because you can trust Jared Goff. You can trust him to do the right thing. You can trust him to make the right play. The Eagles are playing whatever type of football it is, and it's because you can't trust Carson Wentz. And in the NFL, trust is the biggest thing. I heard Urban Meyer talk about it Saturday. Either the coaches don't trust the players don't trust the coaches, or there's just some disconnect. That destroys a football team. You know what? I know Sean McVay, the moment he looks Jared Goff in the eyes Monday morning when they meet, he trusts him. I don't know if Doug Peterson trusts Carson Wentz anymore. I don't know if Doug Peterson thinks he made the right decision and he should have kept Nick Foles. Because at least Nick Foles was easy. You knew his weaknesses. You knew his strengths, and that's easy to work with. Every week, Carson Wentz's strengths and weaknesses are different. It's a challenge. It makes it much more difficult to coach. That's the truth. All right? So that was the rant I needed to have today. Goff versus Wentz. I'm awake now. It's good morning to the world. Jared Goff's better than Carson Wentz. That's the truth. And then, once a week, the NFC East update. Here we go. Where are we standing? What are we doing? It's a good segue because I talked about Carson Wentz. Where are we standing with the NFC East? I am just in. So I called last week that the Cowboys were going to win it. So are they in the position to win it? Yes, 2-7. Very much a real possibility to win it. They are 1 game back in the win column, 2 games back in the loss column, and a game back in the tie column. Whatever that means. I know it counts as half a win, half a loss. I don't get it. Because a 9-6-1 team gets in the playoffs over a 9-7 team. So that tie is going to be very important coming down the stretch. All right, so the New York Giants just beat the Eagles. So I think they moved into place, and the Washington football team lost a heartbreaker this weekend on Matt Prater's 59-yard field goal. It was an absolute bomb. You have to really respect the kicker for that. The fact they walked out, let him take it. He was excited, as he should have been. We got to applaud that. But like I said last week, I think the Cowboys found their guy temporarily till Dak gets back. I think the biggest thing you've got to realize, if you're the Giants, if you're the Washington football team, if you're the Cowboys, if you're the Eagles, is this division is up for grabs. And I'm not just talking about this year. I'm talking for the next decade. None of these 4 teams have it right now. None of these 4 teams are going to win the Super Bowl. I think we could all agree on that. But one of these teams is going to make the playoffs this year. One of them is. Who's it going to be? I am still calling the Cowboys. I think the Giants are the best 2-7 team I've ever seen. Word to Dave Gettleman for saying that. But they've lost a lot of close games. I think the Giants are for sure the front runner. But I bet on the Cowboys last week. It's a long shot. I understand that. But Garrett Gilbert, I think Zeke's going to have a really good second half after the bye week. Let his hamstring heal up a little bit. And I think, you got Michael Gallup, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got a young guy who wants to throw the ball downfield in Garrett Gilbert. Amari Cooper, forgot about him. Sorry about that, Amari. It's not your fault. It's your organization's ineptness. So it's going to be interesting. I think the NFC West is going to be interesting. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun home stretch in the NFL. One of the funnest in a while. So get your sports books ready. Get your whatever you're into fantasy football team dialed in. Mine's done. My fantasy football team's over. It's done. I completely am just going to burn it to the ground. I'm trading everybody. So if you're my friend and you're listening to this show and you're in the fantasy league, everyone's up for grabs. Send me your best offer. Or worst offer, honestly. You throw me a little money on the side, I'll give you my best players. I don't care anymore. I can't win the league. All right, there goes my $25 buy-in. It's all good. It's all clay. It's all right. All right. So one day I'll have Matthew McConaughey on the show like Colin Cowherd did because I'm just that cool. But until then, we're going to talk about the Masters. All right. So the Masters is my favorite. It's one of my favorite sporting events in the world. I went golfing this weekend. It all felt good because of that. I have a Tiger Woods hat on right now. It's been a good ride as a golf fan, and we're going to get the Masters again shortly. In a few months, it's going to be spectacular. So hopefully golf is able to go back, have a more normal tour this time around. You're going to get the players taking some time off. But once we get back to Augusta, I think there's going to be some awesome chances because this is going to be the fastest turnaround for Augusta ever. I think we're going to see some really great rounds because it's going to be fresh in the mind, or Augusta is going to really have to change the course and the way it plays with pin locations, with the speed of the greens, with the speed of the fairway, the length of the rough, So there's two options. We're either going to see the lowest rounds we've seen at the Masters ever, or we're going to see the Augusta groundskeepers just get after it and make this course impossible. Who's going to win that? It's going to be consistency. The one reason DJ was never on my mind was because he's never been that consistent. And he really... So I wrote this in my notes. Tiger Woods got me to the television this weekend. Tiger Woods was my first favorite athlete before LeBron James. Tiger Woods was someone I watched with my dad. He was from the Long Beach, California area. I think Cypress was the technical team term. And, watching him when I was younger, I'd hit golf balls in the backyard. And one of my earliest memories is I was hitting my little wiffle ball golf balls. And then out of nowhere, there's a real one. And the wiffle ball ones didn't go very far. And out of nowhere, I'm at the back part of the yard, all right? And in my eyes, this was a long shot. There was no way I was going to hit a ball as far as I was going to hit it. And it connected on the club like it was nobody's business. And the ball flew through a window in the house. And of course, I was scared because you broke a window as a kid. That was because of Tiger Woods, man. I saw the real golf ball. I was probably wearing a red shirt. I love red. And I hit the best shot of my life. So I bought a Tiger Woods hat yesterday. Shot my best round since I was a junior. Like a young kid, not like a junior in high school. Those rounds are pretty similar to this one. Two things I got to learn. How to hit long clubs consistently. I know that's what everyone says about golf, but you just got to hit them straight. Number two, pitching and putting are not as easy as the pros make it look. It's nice playing it in the handle because I don't actually have to mess up that last putt. Those are where you lose a lot of scoring. If I could chip and putt, I would have shot a 69 for sure, course record stuff. But that's just the way golf works. You hit some beautiful shots, you hit some terrible shots. That's how it goes. And that's sort of how Tiger's Day went. And that's why I'm saying Dustin Johnson kept me there. When you look at the final Masters leaderboard, Dustin Johnson was dominant. It was one of those days where you're like, all right, man. He had a huge 4 days. And in the final round, it was no different. -4, So his consistency was elite. And, he hit the ball far. Bryson DeChambeau, take notes, man. That's what it's about. Looking at the final, Rom finished -10, so I wasn't that far off. Koepka finished -10, so my friend wasn't that far off. You look at the top 7. He liked Rory, I liked Thomas. So it really was a balanced leaderboard of power hitters and the more consistent shot makers, I guess you should say. But the one player who struggled the most was Bryson DeChambeau. He ended up -2. Ended up being a much better weekend than he thought. Tiger ended up -1, tied 38. Finau did as well. So it's just one of those weekends, I think. So this happened quite a bit. So this would never happen in a traditional Masters sense because the days are longer. But when you think about why Tiger struggled a little bit down the home stretch, he had just played, I want to say it was a 24-hole day, a 26-hole day. And on the final day, you could just tell the conditioning wasn't there. And everyone's like, oh my God, he has to play more tournaments if he's going to be mad about it. He wasn't mad about conditioning. He'd never make that excuse. It's us Tiger fans who are making the excuse for him. Because it's true. It's tough. I golfed yesterday, and the first round of golf I played was in 100-degree heat. The second round of golf I played yesterday was like 59 to 63, perfect weather. Karting, it was not a very physically demanding day, to be honest. The most physically demanding part was for sure the Bud Lights thrown back. But Tiger, struggled. I think when you come around, Tiger's going to be more ready for this next trip to Augusta than ever. These are the only. I think this and the PGA are his only 2 chances to really catch up to Jack and the Golden Bear. I think that's it. But I want to give some love to the winner. All right, so I'm not a Dustin Johnson hater. I really like Dustin Johnson. I think he's a cool dude. I think he's very human. He's a guy who's battled with sobriety and those issues. He is a guy who's had to put it all back together and work hard to get the respect back from the community he's in. Dustin Johnson is a champ. And he won the U.S. Open. He struggled in other majors. But every time the U.S. Open came around, the big hitter, he was there. And, it all comes to this, the ability to make putts for him. When Dustin Johnson has the putter working, he's one of the most lethal golfers to ever set foot on a professional PGA Tour certified course. That's the truth. And what we saw yesterday was Dustin Johnson at his peak. The driver's going well. The short game's working. The putter's working. That's what we saw this weekend. We saw him put it all together. And he does it rarely. But he does it enough to where he is dangerous consistently. And that's exciting. And I just need to applaud the golfers. They really put it out in different circumstances, a different situation. And you got to give them some credit there for that. But yeah, I'm actually not going to get to the coaches today. I'm going to talk about that on Buck Off tomorrow. I'm running short on time. But I appreciate you guys coming out today. Be ready Thursday. We're going to get into whatever happens during the week. I haven't really projected yet. We'll get into the NFL this weekend, best bets, whatever. And that'll be it for the day. This is your host, Christopher Rennie, signing out. But before I do, go and subscribe to the podcast, rate the show. And don't forget, we've got MLB free agency. We've got a bunch of stuff that can break anytime, NBA-wise. So we'll be ready to talk about it. And then that is it for the day. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Chris Rennie CFB. Adios, muchachos.